Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to week 2. This is going to be, I know we're coming on hot and heavy with the video content, but this is going to be a substantial video. It'll cover what you need to do to get week 2 done, what you're going to need, what we'll be doing moving forward. Please be patient with me as I cannot bulk edit all the discrepancies and page numbers that are in this course shell. I'm working through it, but for week 2, you have all the updated information that you're going to need. First, let's go in here. I'm going to view as a student. We'll go up to content. We'll go down to week 2. Let's look at the introduction and objectives. Okay. Here, this is for both sociology, social work, psychology majors, anybody in the behavioral sciences. This is going to be our methods part of the course. We need to establish rigorous methods, not just opinion or conjecture. We need to establish rigorous methods for studying the family as an institutional arrangement, as some place where interactions take place. So let's take a minute and read through this. We're basically getting accurate information about family life. We're doing scientific investigation, and we employ various research methods. The objectives. After completing the learning objectives for this topic, you're going to be able to explain the importance of studying marriage and family, rather than relying on popular notions. Define objectivity and identify ways of thinking that lack objectivity. Talk about social science research methods and methodology. There is a difference. Methods is the actual application. Methodology is a study of methods. Recognize the strengths and weaknesses of survey research, clinical research, observational research, and experimental research. And explain the difference between basic and applied research. This is a key point, this last point. For those of you who are sociologists or are studying history or other disciplines, a lot of times we do what's called basic research. We're assessing, we're testing a hypothesis. Now, applied research means research that we're going to take out into the world and apply in some way to use. Let me give you an example from my own experience. I'm a sociologist. I have worked with social work professors at my other former job. What I would do is they would have a hypothesis about the application of a social work program. In the case of the published articles where I'm a co-author, they were evaluating fatherhood programs to help young men who were fathers follow through with their responsibilities. It was a social work obligation that was undertaken, right? But in order to assess the effectiveness of the program, I would go in, my job as a sociologist was to take some techniques, some statistical techniques, and apply them before and after. Usually there was a questionnaire that was administered before and after, and see what are the difference between the people going into the program who then received the treatment, that's what we call it in literature, and then after the program, to see whether there was a significant difference between before and after. We're not going to get into the statistics of that, but it's a statistical technique. Okay? So that the difference is between basic and applied research. We do both. The two inform each other. There are times when we don't know the answer to a lot of questions. Okay, so let's go in there. Here's your activities checklist. It's updated May 2020. Okay. Review the introduction and objectives page. Okay, read the clickable link from your textbook. Okay, chapter 2. Okay, it's right there. Okay, and then read the following essay that's in your reader. Okay, that should have been reader. okay? So I'm going to have to go back in there and look and correct that. Learning activities, you're going to have to complete all the activities. Read the lesson on studying families, and then do the discussion form and the quiz. Remember on the discussion form, which we'll cover in a moment here, that important that you post your initial post. It's a discussion, not a Dropbox exercise. And that you respond to 2 of your classmates, because it's a discussion. That's how you'll be graded, both in your initial post and in your response. Let's go back out here for a moment. I'm going to make this small correction while we're sitting here looking. Okay, week 2. Week 2, studying families, learning activities checklist. Okay, so let me go back in here and edit this. Reader. Okay, great. So we're done with that. All right, let's go back now and look at, we'll move down this list. Okay, here are the learning activities. These learning activities are just, you can go in here and you can practice these. They're games. They're not graded. They're not official. They're just a nice way for you to review. Okay. Studying families link. Let's take a look at this. Okay. This discusses how popular culture misrepresents family life. This is a key consideration that we have to look at. Because families on TV or in the media provide us with unusual expectations. And we have media, mass media, as we know, is kind of problematic. We are not interested in studying the family, an ideal form of the family. That is, a mom, a dad, some kids. No. We are interested in sociology and in the applications from sociology that you will take into therapy or social work, in what it means to look at the function of a family and sometimes the dysfunction of a family. Okay? So we're not only looking at think about your family, but think about somebody else who has a different family form. There is no evidence, there's very little evidence to indicate that family form is going to define, the success of what we might deem to measure it, okay? So in order to obtain valid research information, we need to keep in mind these rules of thinking. We have to suspend the beliefs, biases, or prejudices we have about a subject until we really understand what is being said. Then we can relate it to the attitudes and information we already have. Here's an example. I came from what they used to call in the 1950s and 1960s a, quote, broken home, unquote. Okay? People at that time incorrectly thought that family form, or the people, the incumbents in family positions, had an effect on the family. But the science indicated that that wasn't correct. Okay? So what does this mean? Well, a couple of things. I have to suspend my belief about what a family should look like. We're not dealing with should here. We're dealing with what is and how this functions or how this doesn't function in terms of an application and a description. Okay? So that is what we want to do. Okay? We don't have the same experiences and values. Some families work very well. It's a family system. It's an interactive, ongoing, dynamic system that we're looking at here. So please read this section here on the scientific method. What a concept is, an abstract idea that we use to represent concrete reality. Okay? This is particularly critical when we're talking about the family, where there is no the family in terms of anything other than the functions, other than how it proceeds, how it works. Theories are general principles or concepts used to explain phenomena. We can use a theory to develop a testable hypothesis. We'll talk about that a little more when we talk about your paper. So we have quantitative research. If I'm looking at, for example, how unemployment in the current situation, the COVID-19 pandemic, affects families before and after this emerged, that's a quantitative piece, because I'm going to be looking at thousands of families, okay? Qualitative research comes about, we look at smaller groups in a more in-depth fashion using intensive interviews, case studies, or various documents. For example, if I wanted to know how this current situation, to relate it, affects the families of people who are addicts, a lot of people are going into addiction treatment, then we're going to interview these addicts and interview their family members, a small set of them, to come up with some generalizable propositions that we can later test, okay? That's going to be key both for basic research and for observations that you might make that you might use to assess an applied research, okay? So here are the types of research that we're going to be looking at. Surveys are large-scale surveys. We get a statistically representative group, okay? I'm going quickly through these. Clinical research involves in-depth examinations of persons or small groups. It's going to apply for those of you who are going into psychology or social work. It's a case study, It's going to consist of individual interviews and offer long-term, in-depth information, okay? The key is, though, the results, and this is not what we're going for, may not represent the general population, okay? However, if you're trying to come up with a program or an approach or a treatment for an individual family, this is going to be key. You want to be able to at least compare them to other people who have had similar situations, and then determine whether a program or a treatment or an application will work or not work. Observational research is, again, we might be unobtrusive and direct observation, okay? They talk about the problems. We're going to know that this is useful. And experimental research. Researchers isolate a single factor under controlled circumstances to determine its influence. We need to look at experimental research. Often we talk about what's called a quasi-experiment, a before and after, as I talked about when I talked about doing my evaluation of social work programs. And then applied research focuses on gathering data in order to solve problems or evaluate policies. This is the closest thing to what sociologists and social work professionals do together when we are looking at this particular set of approaches, okay? So that is a thumbnail overview of studying families, okay? Now, from there, please do your readings in the text. After you've done what I would suggest is do the readings in the textbook, and then the reader, and watch this video before you leap into taking the quiz or posting in a discussion forum. Always complete the work, the overview of the material, the module material, before you leap into taking the quiz and getting a bad grade on it. We don't want that. Or posting something in a discussion forum that's sort of like maybe your offhand opinion about something. Remember, when you post in this discussion forum, it is due in 6 days from now that you post your initial post and a response to 2 of your classmates. Okay? So I think let's move forward with this. I'm going to move forward. I'm going to be correcting material here as we go forward and making sure that we are there. I will have a couple of opportunities for us to have a live conversation should you wish it. It is completely optional. I'll be sending out some Zoom meeting times. I'm going to kind of hear back and see if anybody is interested in this. So please drop me an email. Okay? Thanks, and have a great week, too.